Joined now by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, as Dustin Schutte also with us. Mike is up in Chicago at the NBA Draft Combine. How have things been going up there, Mike?
Pretty well. It's today really probably creates the most, that starts the best action. I was here on Tuesday for the last day of the G League Combine, and I got to see a bunch of players then. And it was interesting, although not, and there was some interesting stuff to me. There were players like J.D. Note, who I loved at Arkansas this year, didn't really show much of a spark and maybe showed that they should be at Arkansas next year. There were a few guys like that. I watched Buddy Boeheim hit 3 threes in a row while barely looking at the basket, just catch and shoot fire. He can really fill it up. And I'm sure that caught the attention of some scouts, at least as a guy they might bring in as an unsigned free agent, somebody like that, maybe develop in their G League team. And so it's been good so far today. What we have today, starting early afternoon, we get the chance to talk to the prospects, and then they'll start to play games after that window, which it's much more interesting than the drills they were going through yesterday. I sat there for 6 hours for the most part and watch them do little sprint drills and little shuttle drills and things like that, and some hoop drills, shooting jumpers from various parts on the court, that sort of thing. But we talked to some scouts, and what do you get out of this? And they said, you get something out of everything, but it's kind of an endurance test to sit there through all of that.
What is anybody? And I know that what everybody here listening wants to talk about Trayce Jackson-Davis, but obviously he has contracted COVID from that's been the word, but we also just heard that his interviews today were canceled. So he's not going to get to work out, even have interviews. I didn't think he was leaving to begin with. So I don't think this really hurts him, but I don't know how in the world he could possibly leave now without having done any of this stuff.
Yeah, I still think that Trayce's best step is to come back to Indiana and show more game than he has. And I think we're past the absurdity of the longer you play, the more they find you out. I think that piece of basketball emptiness is now consigned to history. I think we see now that's not really the case. That the longer you play, the more you grow as a player. And if you don't grow, then you're not going to have a future in the league. Which I think they find that out. If you're not capable of growth, then of course you're not going to have a future in the league, because you don't I talked to a scout yesterday who said high school to college is an enormous jump, but college to the NBA, it's as if you're having to learn
the moon.
It's and I agree with that. I think that it's a bigger jump, but it's a much bigger jump if you don't fully explore the first jump. I mean, think about high school to the NBA. I mean, it's bonkers. You have to be absolutely extraordinary to even have a chance to conquer that jump. And that's why the players who were successful were LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, guys who were insane talents. So you fully explore your talent. We're going to see, for instance, we're going to see players selected fairly prominently. Like Ochai Agbaji, who I've seen now as high as 11 on mock drafts. Now, I'm not promising you that one's right, but if he's that high, then he'll certainly go in the top 20. And he played 4 years at Kansas. Why? Because he kept getting better. Every year he got better. Last year he steps out on the floor at Madison Square Garden in the Champions Classic and says, boom, I'm ready to be a star, and changed his whole profile right there. He had been a good, solid role player, and then as it got to his junior year, he got to be a all Big 12 level player, still not getting in the first round. Boom, I'm an All-American. Boom, I'm one of the best players on the national. I am the best player on the national championship team and one of the best players at the Final Four. And now he'll be maybe a lottery pick, maybe a top 20 pick, but that's what Trayce has in front of him. develop the game. He's got legit basketball skills that need to be polished and expanded. And that's what the pre NBA experience is to go ahead and use that to its full extent.
And I think that by coming back, he'll be on a team that's going to be markedly better, which will put a little less pressure on him to be this guy in this place. It'll free him up to do some things if he wants to try and do that.
And, I think that, honestly, to be fair, I mean, part of this has to be an agreement with Indiana. Like, I'll go into post when we need a bucket or when that's the way to beat that team. But it can't be every trip, or it's not, or it is a wasted year. If it's every trip, it's a wasted year. He has to have some sort of understanding, and that can make Indiana better too. Don't get me wrong; that's not just about him. But if Kofi Cockburn is guarding him, say, and I know Kofi won't be there, but if a Kofi Cockburn is guarding him, and Trayce can say, take the ball out to the foul line or beyond, and say, okay, guard this, and that can make Indiana better. So part of this has to be a conversation with IU about, and certainly, with Mike's NBA experience, he has a high level of understanding of how to incorporate a player like Trayce into an offense that just doesn't just take advantage of his enormous and wonderful low post skills.
And Indiana is, like I mentioned, they're going to be a better team next year regardless because of personnel and all of that. If he was able to do that, that in and of itself makes this team markedly better, and it makes it a potentially really good team.
Yeah, I mean, I used Kofi as the example just because I saw him yesterday, but there is one in Zach Edey who is like that. I mean, so that forces, if you can play Trayce on the perimeter some, that forces Purdue to make a decision about how to guard him that they didn't have to make this year. That back when Rutgers had Miles Johnson, they never had to make. They just like, okay, Miles, stand up, get real big, and make it hard for Trayce to shoot over you. And that was every Rutgers game in Trayce's sophomore year. And I think they played 2 or 3 of them that year. So I think that him being a more mobile target while still retaining the ability on a big possession to go into the post and say, okay, I'm still dominant down here when I get the chance. I think that'd be great. What he does lose, and I saw a lot of guys yesterday and the day before in the G League camp who have the ability to go back. And I don't think that this can ever be a bad experience for a player. It is either a chance to say, yes, I'm ready. No, I'm never going to be ready. Or what do I need to find out about how to be ready? And so I think this is a great experience for every 1 foot in, 1 foot out player that is participating. And so I feel bad for Trayce that he's not getting to have that, because I do think that it would help him just because I compare it to a summer internship. It's a short one. But if you think about it, between filing and preparing and being here and going to individual teams, it's about a 5 or 6 week process, which some summer internships aren't much longer than that. And I think that you find out, okay, 1, what do you have to work on to get ready for this? 2, what do the scouts think when you show up here and interact with people and perform? And then you go to the individual interviews and the small team workouts, like Chris said, and you get that experience. And I'm not sure, obviously he hasn't abandoned all of the process because of this circumstance, but he's missed this part. So it would have helped him. But I still think that more than likely the best scenario for him, and a scenario that in the right circumstance could make him a solid first-round pick, is to play it on another year at Indiana, become a first-team All-American, become a key player on a team that makes a significant NCAA tournament run, that contends for the Big Ten championship, and shows more variety in his game.